The Crithari Empire had ruled for over 1,000 cycles, their dominion stretching across clusters of stars like chains. Their fleets patrolled the void with radiant banners, and their rulers wore crowns of living crystal that pulsed with energy drawn from subjugated worlds. Every world they conquered was another jewel in their endless coronation. So when their long-range scouts reported a fragile human colony on the barren moon of Rhea Prime, the Crithari laughed. Humans were a young species, still speaking of ideals like diplomacy and cooperation, still sending envoys into the void with open hands instead of sharpened claws. They had fleets, yes, but fleets meant for defense, not conquest. To the Crithari, Earth was a candle flickering at the edge of their domain, soft and harmless compared to the suns they devoured. Thus, when the humans dared to build a trade outpost in, Crithari claimed space, though that claim was nothing but a hollow line on a map. The Empire chose to make a lesson of them. Crithari Warlord arrived in orbit above Rhea Prime with 6 battleships. The colony below had no weapons, no shield nets, no planetary defense grid. Just 10,000 settlers, farmers, engineers, families. He opened the comms, his crystalline crown pulsing with cold light as he spoke. Humans of Rhea Prime, your presence in this sector is an insult to the Crithari Empire. We accept your surrender. Kneel, and perhaps some of you will live as indentured laborers. There was silence on the human channel. Then, the governor of the colony, a woman with tired eyes, simply said, "This is our home." The Crithari laughed, a laugh that echoed across all open channels. Then the order was given. Orbital strikes rained down. Entire districts vanished in white fire. The sky turned into a burning wound. Cities were shredded into ash. Children, workers, elders, none were spared. Within an hour, Rhea Prime was nothing but a smoldering ruin, its surface cracked and blackened. The governor's last transmission, her voice hoarse and defiant, carried across the stars until it was silenced in flame. The Crithari commander ordered the wreckage left as a warning. His crown shone brighter, a jewel of conquest added to his glory. He returned to his empire certain that no retaliation would ever come. For humans, after all, were civil, too weak. Laughter in palaces. In the weeks that followed, the halls of Crithari power rang with arrogance. In their great palace on Veyrun, warlords drank and boasted of the slaughter. The governor's final words were mocked in songs. "This is our home," they repeated, laughing as if the words were a child's protest. Other empires joined the chorus. The Dracoli Confederacy murmured that humanity should have stayed within its cradle. The Atrak Dominion remarked that Earth's people had no true teeth, only soft words and fragile ships. None of them saw the gathering silence. None of them noticed the faint tremors running through human space. None of them understood what was being born in the void. They thought Earth would send another envoy, perhaps begging for reparations, perhaps seeking to open dialogue. They thought humanity would write another treaty. But there were no envoys, no pleas, no cries, only silence. A silence that spread across the stars, heavier than any words. The awakening of the scars in the black vaults beneath Earth's orbiting stations. Humanity's fleets stirred. Old dreadnoughts that had not seen war in generations powered their engines once more. Silent dry docks came alive with forges and hammers, building ships the size of cities. Every scar humanity had ever carried was reopened. Rhea Prime was just the newest wound. But beneath the surface, humanity had never forgotten Mars, where early explorers had died under corporate greed. They had not forgotten the ambushed diplomats at Sigma 10, or the colonies lost to pirate lords while alien empires turned away. Humans remembered everything, and now, those scars burned. Fleet Command did not broadcast their mobilization. No speeches, no declarations. The galaxy only realized what was happening when stars themselves seemed to darken with the shadows of human warships. Where once humanity had been cautious, they now moved with a purpose that terrified even their allies. Communications across the networks went dead as entire fleets slipped into stealth. Long dormant weapons arrays, built in secret and hidden in the bones of moons, roared to life. A message pulsed through every human channel, carried not by diplomats, but by war songs. It was a single phrase, repeated endlessly, "We are coming." The breaking of crowns. The Crithari fleets first realized something was wrong when their outermost garrisons went dark. At first, commanders thought it was an equipment failure. Then, one by one, every outpost along the border fell silent. No distress calls, no escape pods, nothing. When reinforcements arrived, they found only debris. Massive dreadnought hulks split cleanly in half. Stations melted to slag. corpses drifting in the void, unrecognizable save for the terror still frozen on their faces. The Crithari warlord laughed nervously, assuring his court that it was sabotage, perhaps a pirate rebellion. Nothing serious, until the humans arrived. First came the scouts. Sleek ships with blackened hulls, their insignias painted not in gold, but in the crimson of blood. They cut through defenses without a sound, their weapons striking faster than light. Entire star systems went dark within days. Then came the fleets. When the first human armada emerged from slipspace, the sky itself seemed to fracture. Thousands of warships, dreadnoughts larger than mountains, carriers belching forth wings of strike craft. They moved not as a chaotic swarm, but as a single organism, disciplined and relentless. Human admirals gave no quarter, no pause. Their comms carried no demands for surrender. Their first broadcast to the Crithari was simple, stripped of all diplomacy. You touched our children. Now we erase your empire. World after world burned. The crystal crowns of the Crithari dimmed as their rulers fled, clutching treasures that now meant nothing. Palaces once filled with laughter became tombs of silence as orbital bombardments turned them to dust. Alien observers, who had mocked humanity, now watched in dread as Crithari strongholds, fortresses thought eternal, were annihilated in hours. The crowns of the Crithari had shone with borrowed light. Humanity's scars burned brighter. The storm that could not be stopped. It was not just destruction. It was fury made manifest. Human infantry stormed Crithari cities, their exosuits gleaming like steel giants. Their banners carried no symbols of conquest, only the names of the fallen etched into endless rolls. No quarter was given. The slaughter of Rhea Prime was carved into the hearts of every soldier, every commander, every drone. The humans fought not for territory, not for resources, but for vengeance so pure it was unrecognizable to the other empires. On the battlefield, Crithari warlords tried to rally. They raised their crowns, unleashing weapons of psychic fire, but the humans pressed on through flame and storm, their wounds ignored, their scars glowing with rage. One soldier, his armor cracked and burning, dragged himself across a ruined street to plant the human flag atop a Crithari palace. His chestplate bore the words, Rhea Prime. When the palace detonated hours later, his flag still flew, silhouetted against the flames. Alien witnesses spoke of dreadnoughts blotting out stars, of bombardments that reshaped continents, of silence falling after every human fleet departed. A silence more terrifying than the destruction itself. Entire Crithari sectors surrendered, begging for mercy. But there was none. Not this time. The ashes of empires. When the war finally ended, the Crithari Empire no longer existed. Their crowns lay shattered in the dust of their ruined capital, crystal fragments glittering like tears. The galaxy whispered of the humans then, not as diplomats, not as traitors, not as a young species fumbling in the dark, but as executioners. They whispered of scars that burned brighter than crowns, of wounds that became weapons. They whispered of Rhea Prime, and the 10,000 who had died refusing to kneel. Survivors of the Crithari told stories to their children in hushed tones, of fleets that came from the darkness without warning, of soldiers who fought even when broken, of voices that spoke vengeance in every tongue. Other empires, once arrogant, grew quiet. The Dracoli, who had laughed, now withdrew their fleets from human borders. The Atrak, who had mocked, signed silent treaties of non-aggression. No one dared to test Earth again, because now they understood. Humanity was patient, patient enough to seek peace, to offer treaties, to forgive 1,000 insults. But when the line was crossed, when blood was spilled, when children were struck down, that patience ended. And in its place came vengeance infinite, cold as the void, hot as burning suns. The eternal warning generations later, the ruins of the Crithari palaces still lay untouched, their crowns buried beneath ash. Travelers avoided the region, calling it haunted space. But some claimed, on quiet nights when the stars flickered strangely, you could still hear the last human broadcast echoing in the dark. You touched our children. Now we erase your empire. And every empire, every dominion, every kingdom that listened knew one truth, etched deeper than any scar, brighter than any crown: never provoke Earth again.